Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very excited to be talking to Kerry Mann, who has had a fantastic transformation on the carnivore diet. You're going to tell us a little bit about that. Kerry, thank you so much for accepting my invite. Can you go over a little bit your transformation, what brought you to the carnivore diet, and how that has inspired you to do the documentary that you're working on? But we'll focus more on the documentary towards the latter end of the interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I had many health issues starting in my early adult years. I was diagnosed with IBS. My stomach always hurt every time I ate. Uh, After that, I was diagnosed with sleep apnea. I went to a couple sleep studies and I had to get a CPAP machine that I used for years and years. I lost my gallbladder. I was just having all these stomach issues, and I went in and got more tests done, and they're like, your gallbladder's kind of borderline. And they said we could remove it or leave it. And I said, just take it out. My stomach has just been hurting me for so many years. Maybe this will help. Of course, it didn't. My appendix burst on the operating room table. Uh, could have probably killed me if I didn't happen to be in the hospital. I thought I was having kidney stone. I've had two kidney stones also, by the way, which was some of the worst pain I've ever had in my life. But I had all these health issues. And then about 15, 20 years ago, the depression started to hit me really hard. I was always kind of anxious, but the depression was like on another level, and it just kept getting worse and worse. I turned into insomnia. It turned into suicidal ideation. I mean, it was just a very dark place for many years. My wife took me in, and I went to get help for it, and they put me on more medication. And the medication, they're like, this is going to take 3 months if you know if it's going to work or not. And I'm like, I don't know if I can make it 3 minutes or 3 days, let alone 3 months. But I did the medication for 3 months and it didn't do anything. And then they said, well, we can up the dosage and see if that helps, but it's going to take another 3 months. So I did it for another 3 months, and I did that for like a year. And then I did another medication and another medication. And
What
over
are
the
the
course,
drugs, if you don't mind sharing?
yeah, you name it. I think I was on most of them. I think I was on sertraline, Zoloft. I was on alprazolam for anxiety. I was on trazodone, which they gave me for depression and sleep. There's, I don't have it with me, but I've shown it in videos before, my bin, and there's 15 to 20 medications, and the most of them are for depression, anxiety. Some of them are for other issues as well, but yeah, so the depression just kept getting worse and worse. And long story short, because I tend to ramble, about 8 years ago, I was at home. I was really depressed. I was sitting on the couch. I went to stand up and I got really dizzy and my face went numb and I got confused. And my wife's like, what is happening? I couldn't get the words out to tell her. She called 911. I went to the hospital. I had a TIA mini stroke and I spent 5 days at the stroke unit in the hospital. Thankfully, the symptoms mostly cleared up, although I still do have like a droopy lip every time I smile. In fact, someone just commented on my YouTube video the other day. They're like, "Did you have a stroke?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, I did about 8 years ago. My lip, like on the side, still kind of droops a little bit." But after going into the hospital, they're like, "What is wrong with this guy? You're in your late 30s and you're having a mini stroke, and you're 100 pounds overweight." At my heaviest, I was 100 pounds heavier than I am right now. And so they did a whole bunch of tests on me, and they diagnosed me with congestive heart failure. My ejection fraction was 44,
Huh.
and I've also had a lifelong irregular heartbeat, but it was never symptomatic. Like it never caused any issues. But so yeah, all of those things cascaded. And I was like, I was on one pill, and then I'd get side effects. They'd give me more pills until that pill bin I mentioned built up to about 15 or 20 different medications. I was just miserable, depressed, overweight. And then I got gout too. I had the last big issue I had was gout in my foot, and it was just incredibly painful. I would go to the store and have to ride around on a mobility scooter. I couldn't put pressure down. I was on crutches for a while. I saw three different foot specialists and doctors. One said it's gout. The other one said, no, it's just really bad arthritis. The third one said, we can do surgery on the toe. And I almost had surgery on the toe. And that was when I found carnivore through a YouTube video, through a very inspiring individual named Dante Ferrigno, who has a YouTube channel, Ferrigno Freedom. And my wife and I were just flipping through YouTube, and he was talking about, I'm going to eat meat for 90 days. And I'm like, this guy's crazy. Like, what are you talking about? You can't, you're gonna clog your arteries. Like, you can't just eat meat. This is nuts. But then I was thinking about it more, and I had done keto successfully over the years because I saw a documentary on Netflix like 15 years ago called Fathead, and it was all about keto. And I knew nothing about keto. And I tried keto, and it was the only thing my entire life that helped with my depression a little bit. Like, I noticed a change in my mood and depression, but I could never sustain it. I lost a bunch of weight on keto, like 60 pounds, and then I gained like 80 pounds. And then I repeated that cycle for 10 or 15 years. It's like I've been doing YouTube for 10 or 15 years, and people watch my YouTube channel, and my weight just went up and down over and over again. So, yeah, when I saw Dante, I'm like, I understand the science. He's just talking about a strict ketogenic diet that should totally work, but it's insane and it's crazy and you can't sustain it and it's boring and things like that. So that's how I found carnivore.
Dante Ferrigno. That I'm shocked that I don't know who that person is. I have to definitely try and see if I can. Is it a big channel?
It is. It's really growing now too. Ferrigno Freedom. He's kind of old school, but he's one of the first. We have all the good doctors like yourself that have been talking about this for a while. But he was one of the first individuals, I believe, to really document his journey, and his like before and after was crazy. So just real quick, when my wife and I saw him on YouTube, um, he said he was going to do this thing. He's going to eat meat for 90 days. And again, I'm like, this is crazy. It's insane. But then I noticed that video was 2 years old. So really cynically, I said to my wife, I'm like, let's fast forward. Let's watch his most recent video. I'm like, there's no way this dude's eating meat 2 years later. And so we looked at his current YouTube video and you couldn't recognize Dante. Lost all of the weight. But the thing that was so remarkable wasn't the weight loss. It was his demeanor, his mood, his face, like his skin was glowing. He had a big smile on his face. He
Hmm.
overcame like his depression, and it's just literally looked like a completely different human, like he leveled up or something. And that just blew my mind. And then I watched a whole bunch of videos from Dr. Barry and Dr. Chafee and all the good doctors. And then I decided to start carnivore from there.
And so that was exactly when that your first day of carnivore.
642 days ago. Not that I'm
Nice,
counting.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so year and a half, almost 2 years ago. And it was crazy. So I started and I stopped snoring almost immediately, which
Mhm.
completely blew my mind. And then I started researching it and I saw Dr. Jordan Peterson on Joe Rogan giving his powerful carnivore testimony. And he said to Joe Rogan, I stopped snoring the first week on carnivore. And honestly, I got kind of mad because I hate my CPAP machine. And I've gone to several sleep doctors and I've been using the CPAP machine for years. And my doctor always told me, he's like, listen, you're way overweight. You got to lose like 100 pounds, which was hopeless to me because I'd never been able to lose that much or keep it off. But it turns out I was just snoring from inflammation. And a
Mm.
lot of people in the world are snoring from inflammation. I never had a clue. Like, I never had a clue it could be that easy. So I stopped snoring right away. That got me really excited. And then just real quickly, I started noticing 3 weeks in, I had this whoa moment where I'm like, this is incredible. Like, I feel amazing. I feel so good. Not that all of my depression and anxiety was completely gone, but it was noticeably improved. And then my IBS started clearing up too in those first couple weeks. I'm like, there was a point I said to my wife, I'm like, I can't feel my stomach right now. It just feels like it's light air down there. And that made me mad too, because I'm like, that's probably how my stomach should have felt my entire life had I not been putting all of this toxic, poison, junk, slow, highly inflammatory foods in my body that we were never intended to eat. So, yeah, I had a lot of things happen really quickly that got me pretty excited about carnivore.
Did you struggle with cravings when you first started or adaptation symptoms?
Yeah, the first little bit I did. However, I had done keto so much that I think I was able to adapt quicker than most people were.
Mm. Yeah, me
But
too.
yeah, I had some of that, and what really helped me, I heard one of the doctors or YouTubers or someone mention this, but getting more fat really helped me early on. So I had a lot of bacon nearby. So if I got cravings, I'd eat bacon or something fatty. That
Yeah.
seemed to help me. And yeah, I think it was a little easier for me than other people, but yeah, I was able to get through those.
And what are some of the other transformational things that occurred as a result of sticking to the carnivore diet?
Yeah, I mean, it's saved my life. I don't say that lightly. I was so depressed. I was so hopeless, and I would have given anything when I was depressed and anxious. I used to be jealous of people that were just normal. Like they're not suffering. I just want to be normal like that. I don't want to be real happy or normal, but what happened for me on carnivore and the reason I'm so passionate about it is whatever that hopeless suicidal depression was, it's like the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm not just baseline. I'm like full of joy and gratitude. Like I'm living life to the fullest. Like never before. It's crazy. And I've talked to so many other individuals that have done the same thing. So that's been the most remarkable change. But the other one that's really crazy. So the IBS went away. I suffered with that for years. Stomach always gurgling and bubbling. That's completely gone. The sleep apnea went away. I don't use a CPAP machine anymore. The 15 medications I was on, with the help of my doctors, I did it responsibly. I weaned off of I'm on zero meds. I'm on no medications now anymore. And the craziest thing was a year into carnivore, I'm like, I don't feel the congestive heart failure I mentioned earlier was one of my biggest. This is a scary diagnosis. Like, am I going to die? Like heart failure. This is crazy.
Hmm.
And I had symptoms from that. I would always get dizzy and I was always fatigued. And when we'd go to church, which was a constant every Sunday, you have to stand up and sing and sit down, stand up and sit down. Every time I'd stand up, I was getting dizzy prior to carnivore because this congestive heart failure or whatever it was. And not even a year into carnivore, several months into carnivore, that started going away. And like we'd go to church, and I'd be like, I told my wife once, I'm like, this is like, I don't feel dizzy anymore. Like I feel great. And so, long story short, 1 year into carnivore, I went to the doctor, and I have been to hundreds of doctor visits throughout my entire life. I didn't need to go to the doctor 1 year in carnivore because there's nothing wrong with me. I had my blood work done. It all looks incredible. But I'm like, I feel like this congestive heart failure is no longer an issue and I want to get it tested again. So I went to the cardiologist. They did a heart echo 1 year into carnivore, and my ejection fraction was 44 before. It's perfectly normal at 60 on carnivore after. And beyond that, which is insane because for those that don't know, congestive heart failure means your heart can't keep up with the needs of your body. Um, and they told me when they diagnosed me with that, this is chronic. And at best, you're going to keep it the same, but very likely it's going to get worse. But most certainly, it's never going to get better. That's what they told me. And not only did it get better, it's completely reversed. When they told me 60, I'm an individual, right? I'm not a doctor. I'm like, oh man, why didn't I get 100%? 60 is perfect for those that are listening. 60 is, you don't want 100%, that would probably kill you, but 60 is perfect, perfectly normal. Uh, the other thing that's crazy though is I've had the lifelong irregular, highly erratic heartbeat since birth. I have worn heart monitors throughout my entire life, probably 20 times. Kindergarten, middle school, elementary, always wearing these heart monitors. Every doctor visit I go into, the nurse checks your blood pressure, checks your heart. Every single time the nurse says to me, whoa, do you know you have an irregular heartbeat? And every time I'm like, yes, you guys tell me this every time and it's in my records, but I appreciate that you're checking sort of thing. When I went in to get my heart tested again, my regular heartbeat is completely normal for the first time since birth, which just blows my mind. And I've had it checked 3 times. The nurse checked it, the cardiologist checked it, and they verified it in the echo they did on my heart. I'm like, that the congestive heart failure thing was crazy. The other one is even more crazy to me because I had that since birth. Like I thought it was a birth defect or something. I don't know, but I've since we've interviewed Dr. Philip Ovadia, heart surgeon, for our documentary, and so I've talked to him about it a little bit. But it's kind of uncharted territory because most people with congestive heart failure don't go eat only meat; they kind of do the opposite. So, kind
Right.
of uncharted territory that way.
There's
But
no sample size there to run the study.
right,
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. Congratulations. This is so inspiring, so motivational, I'm sure, for so many people. Um, why would you say that when you did keto, you regained the weight back?
great question. I really appreciate you asking that because it took me a long time to figure that out. I believe I kept gaining the weight back on keto because I am addicted to sugar, carbs, standard American diet. And on keto, I was trying to moderate that addiction. Oh, I could just have a little bit of berries. I can have a little bit of this. In my head, I'm like, it's not a candy bar. It's not candy. It's not sugar. But in my body, from what I understand now, if I even eat some strawberries, which are, of course, way better than eating candy, it breaks down in my blood as glucose. And my blood doesn't know the difference if that's glucose from strawberries or a candy bar. I just know that when I would moderate on keto, I'd like 20 carbs or less. I did a while it was 10 carbs or less. I'd have a little bit of berries. I'd measure everything out. 2 hours later, I am ravenously hungry again. I'm craving sugar again. So I feel like I was an alcoholic, and then I would quit alcohol for a long time, and then I'd be like, no, let's just have a beer. And the addiction would just come back. I also feel like carnivore is just so much easier because I believe it's what's natural. I don't believe we were meant to moderate an addiction. Keto is wonderful. It's helped a lot of people. And I think many people, myself included, use keto as sort of a stepping stone to carnivore. But I feel like the reason carnivore works the best and keto is the second best is because it's the closest to what is natural for humans, given the options we have right now. So the other thing that got me with keto near the end was those stupid, I hate them, the keto snacks and keto treats and, oh, this is keto friendly. That drives me nuts. I fell into that trap and then I stopped doing that for a while, but mostly it was really trying to moderate even healthy, healthy carbs or eating raspberries or strawberries or things like that. I could never do it. And yeah, I fell off over and over again trying to do it that way.
Yeah. It's even worse now with all the keto new products. Like they keep coming up with newer and newer and like there's nothing that's highly addictive that they haven't now made into a keto version. It's insane.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really upsets me when I go to the store too because I struggled so hard with that, and then I see other people struggling, and they see those products and they're like, "Oh, zero carbs, I can have that." And then you look at the ingredients list; it's full of like seed oils and garbage, and it's like the reason keto works or carnivore works is because it's what's natural. And if you have a boxed product with 50 ingredients in it, that's the furthest thing from natural. And yeah, it's not, you can't outsmart Mother Nature. I learned that doing carnivore, and it seems like us humans are constantly trying to outsmart Mother Nature. And I don't think in the history of man, I don't think it's ever once succeeded, but we keep trying over and over again.
Love it. Did they ever give you a POTS diagnosis? I feel like this is the new thing.
I was not, although some people have mentioned that afterwards with like the standing up and getting dizzy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could have been. I don't know. But I was never diagnosed with that one.
Right. Okay. What does your diet look like right now?
My diet for 640 days has been strict carnivore, beef, butter, bacon, eggs, with several stretches of lion diet where I just did beef, salt, and water only. I did that for, I think, 90 days and another stretch for about 60 days. I have never cheated on carnivore, and I kind of feel bad saying that because people always get mad, like, oh, Mr. Perfect. But when I was on keto, I cheated several times. I would have like a cheat day or a cheat weekend. And when I found carnivore, it changed my life so profoundly. I mean, I was begging to God, like, give me something. I'm dying here. Anything I can do. So I'm not going to go back and cheat for like some temporary, like a temporary mouth pleasure of eating some junk food or something that I know is not going to end well. So yeah, I have been completely strict. I haven't had a single fruit, vegetable, piece of grain, rice, starch, anything for 640 days now. And the crazy thing is, people would think you're getting bored, but I'm not bored at all. And it keeps getting better and better. When I was on day like 60, I was very fortunate to interview Dr. Anthony Chafee, and he's like, just wait, it gets better. And I'm like, you're just hyping this up. There's no way I could feel any better than I do now, but it keeps getting better and better. My mood, my energy, everything continues to improve.
Wow. That's after day 60, and it kept getting better.
Yeah.
And the bacon that you have right now, is it a specific kind of bacon or regular store-bought bacon?
It's regular store-bought bacon, although I am trying to get better at that because it isn't the cleanest. Oftentimes I'll get stuff from Costco. We have done my whole family's doing carnivore now too, by the way, which has been really nice. But my daughter and I, we've done a couple where we've gotten pork belly and we've
Mm,
smoked it ourselves and made it. And that's what I want to do going forward. I just like it better, it tastes better, and you know exactly what's going in it. So, but a lot of the meat I get, I'm very fortunate. My neighbor's a sixth generation farmer. He's like 2 miles from here, and they have a little farm store, and they are doing everything right. They're regenerative farming. Cows are naturally grazing in the field. They're doing it all right. So I try to get most of my meat from them.
nice. What I do is I get regular store-bought bacon as well, but I just get the lower sodium one because those are the ones that don't have added sugars in them. So that's a little win for me, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And why, or what is the difference between a lion diet in your personal experience versus what you're doing right now?
Yeah, that's a great question because I feel so good on carnivore. It's like, how could you possibly feel any better? I did feel better on lion, and I have felt better on lion. Every now and then on carnivore, I feel a million times better than I did before. There's the caveat, but every now and then I get a little bit of inflammation or a little bit of fatigue here or there, and I had none of that on lion diet. And I
Hmm.
think that's probably because of maybe the bacon I'm eating, or every now and then I'd have chicken or something like that. And I've learned when you eat something like chicken or pork and it's a single stomach animal, if it ate grains that had glyphosate on it or something like that, that could get into the meat more so than it would on lion diet. The other thing
Right.
with lion that was interesting to me was oftentimes I eat one big meal and that would be it. Um, it's just I felt great doing lion. I keep switching too. I'm not putting like a big label on it though. Like I'm strict lion and that's all I can do. I'll do it for stretches and then I'm like I feel like something else for a little while and then go back to carnivore. So kind of been switching between the two. But I felt a lot better on lion versus carnivore.
Very interesting. There's also something having to do with the lectins, when they're consuming the grains, there is a higher likelihood that you're going to get some remnant lectins in the meat that you're eating. And if you're particularly sensitive to that, that might also be triggering some form of reaction in your body and brain.
Mm,
Yeah.
right. Makes sense.
Yeah. Do you do organ meats or organ supplements?
I have done organ supplements. I want to do more organ meats. I did a little bit. I'm just I'm a big baby. I've never prepared like liver before. So every time I'm ready to do it, I'm like, I'm gonna screw this up, I'm gonna mess this up. And then I keep telling myself, if I ever feel deficient or off or fatigued, maybe then I'll incorporate more. And I
Yeah.
haven't, so I really haven't. I have had organ meat that was ground up into like ground beef liver ground, and that was really good. So
Oh, yeah.
I've done that a few times.
You
Uh,
can't taste that metally taste. That's the thing that gets me. That's why I take the supplements.
yeah, I wasn't able to taste it when it was ground up that way, but I imagine if I had straight up liver, I would. But yeah, I've been
Yeah.
doing the liver supplements, I guess in lieu of that.
I could do the organs back when I did keto, but I would caramelize some onions, saute them, and put a mountain of onions, caramelized onions on top. But now that I'm doing carnivore, I can't do that, and I just don't like the taste of actual organ meats, even cooked,
Right?
even raw. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. What about your exercise program right now, if you have one?
I do. Interestingly, never my entire life. I'm 44 years old right now. Never exercised unless I had to. And the thing I always tell people too is I didn't lose a pound. I'm 100 pounds lighter now than I am since my heaviest. And I didn't lose a pound of that from exercise. It was all nutrition. I'm not saying exercise isn't important. It's critically important, but it always drove me nuts because when I was 100 pounds heavier, that was the message I kept getting. Like, dude, go hit a treadmill, go for a walk. But I was so sick and fatigued, I could barely get out of off the couch. It's like having pneumonia or something. It's really hard to exercise when you're sick. But after I started doing carnivore, my energy just started going crazy to the point where I'm like, I've got to do something. My body wanted to exercise. So I started out, I don't know, I saw a YouTuber talking about this before. I started out just getting out early in the morning and going for walks. And then this natural progression that I found happens with a lot of carnivores, it's really kind of a beautiful thing. I started getting sunshine in my eyes first thing in the morning. I'm like, ooh, I like that. I don't know, something's good there. And started hearing people talk about grounding. And I'm like, that's crazy. Just like the Dante Ferrigno. I'm like, this guy's crazy. I'm like, really? I'm gonna take my shoes off and touch the ground. That's gonna help me. I started doing that and I feel even better. I'm like, and then I started researching. There's actually some good science behind grounding. And then from there, it's just progressed where I started doing pull-ups. I have a little exercise area outside and never done that my entire life. And as of right now, we're winter in Wisconsin, so it's a little harder. Although I've done some extreme cold walks in the snow before. But my wife and I have triplets plus one, all girls. And one of the things I'm so happy about right now is they're all carnivore. My one daughter, Katie's a little bit more ketovore, but they're all pretty much carnivore right now. And they started going to the gym like 3 or 4 months ago. And it started getting cold here. And so I started going with them, and they're just killing it. And I've started really enjoying it. So they've been going to the gym like 5 days a week. They take off on the weekends,
Wow.
and so they've been bringing dad with, and they're giving me tips because I've never done this before. They're like, do it this way, you're doing that wrong or whatever. So yeah, it's really turned into a family thing, and I feel so good. Like after I feel great on carnivore, I feel amazing online, and then when you add in like exercise and sunshine, and what I realized was it's just nature. It's just returning to what is natural. I'm eating natural foods through carnivore. I'm getting sunlight in my eyes. That's what we would have done since the start of time. Getting exercise, we would have been working with our hands, working outside. We would have been getting exercise. So the more I incorporate those return to natural sort of things, the better I've been feeling. And yeah, exercise has been a big part of that.
Wow. So beautiful to hear that. I can't get enough of these success stories. I did forget to ask you about dairy. Are you doing any dairy?
Just butter, no cheese, no milk, nothing. I just, yeah. When I did keto, I used to have cheese, and I
Mhm.
noticed it would stall me out, and I noticed I can't moderate anything. I couldn't moderate cheese. I would end up consuming too much of it. And since doing this, like when I did my first 30 days of carnivore, I put a video on my YouTube channel because I was so excited about it. And the video really went crazy. And so I've started getting a lot of people telling me about their own experience. And that's been a problem I've read from a lot of people that end up stalling out on carnivore. Oftentimes it's cheese. So I guess for those reasons, I've avoided it. I know some people seem to be okay with it, but I feel like a lot maybe aren't or don't realize maybe it's setting them back a little.
True, true. Um, Also, I wanted to ask you, I want to go into the documentary stuff and your journey on YouTube. But before, we were talking about the antidepressants. Did you mention that you tapered down the antidepressants, or did you? Because I know that that can be a brutal process.
Yes, I did. I tapered them down with the prescribing doctor's like advice on specifically how to do it. I went down a whole rabbit hole with that, and I've learned how dangerous it can be messing with those medications. So
Mhm.
yeah, I was able to taper off, and I'm so fortunate and blessed. I didn't have crazy withdrawals, and I've interviewed many, many people that have come off of antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications that have had a much harder time than me. So I don't know. I don't know what to attribute that to. Maybe because I did keto on and off, or maybe because I was on so many different types of meds and I'd weaned off of other ones before and started new ones. But yeah, it wasn't as difficult for me as it has been for others.
That's fantastic. Yeah, like you hear stories like brain zaps and hallucinations, and it can get really scary, if you try to do it by yourself or if you don't taper down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And how do you feel the extended family, friends, when you see them, when you hang out, how are they being affected by yours and your family's transformation?
Yeah, it's interesting with the holidays right around the corner again here. First they thought I was crazy. The comment I kept getting, we had a family reunion. Why don't you just eat in moderation? Can't you just eat in moderation? I hate that comment too because I feel like that's why I yo-yo dieted for so many years, like I said earlier, trying to moderate my addiction. Um, I got that comment quite a bit. The sad reality is most of the people giving me comments or advice, their metabolic health is horrible. And they're worried about the wrong things, which is really sad for me. You're going to clog your arteries. That's the one I get a lot. Or you're gonna have a heart attack. That's great, Kerry. You're great. You're doing this, but I want to see your cholesterol numbers in a year. You're a ticking time bomb. Someone said that to me too. But meanwhile, every
Wow.
single one of these individuals has poor metabolic health. That was one of the most important things I learned when I first started this. I think I learned it from Dr. Ovadia that if you have poor metabolic health and you're walking around with an inflamed body because you're eating these chronically inflaming foods that we shouldn't be eating, you're 6 times more likely to suffer heart disease than if your cholesterol numbers are off based on whatever that means, anyways. 6 times. And if you look around in the world, it's like, I think 92% of people walking around have poor metabolic health. And they don't even, most people don't even know what metabolic health is. I don't think I even knew what it was before starting carnivore. So those are some of the conversations I get into. It's really sad too. I have a cousin that's about 2 years older than me. He's got type 2 diabetes.
Mm.
And in his head, he believes that it's a genetic defect. There's something wrong with him. Not that, no, you are just consuming an excess amount of carbohydrates and sugar. And his foot, he had a big like ulcer on the bottom of his foot like 2 years ago. It kept getting worse and worse. They amputated half of his foot. I just saw him 2 weeks ago, and a couple days before that, he had his leg amputated at the knee. He's lost
Wow.
his leg to type 2 diabetes. And he knows my story and he's seen it. And I've talked to him about it and I've seen it many times. And that addiction is so strong that you rather have, every time I see him at family get-togethers, he's drinking Pepsi, he's eating birthday cake as I'm sitting there eating meat and drinking water. I'm like, I'm not going to lose my leg if I eat birthday cake. I have no desire to do it. But meanwhile, you're losing your leg and you're still eating birthday cake and drinking Pepsi. Like that's how strong that addiction is. It blows my mind. It makes me sad on one hand, and then the other hand, that's kind of the reason I'm passionate about getting the word out because there's a lot of people like him and myself included that are told by doctors, which I think is the biggest mistake in the world, that either this is just a fluke, we don't know, or it's genetic, or it's just you. Like when I had my depression, I thought this is just me. There's something wrong with the chemicals in my brain, and I need medication. I had no idea it was the food I was eating. And my cousin is the same way. My body can't handle insulin well. There's something broken with my body. And when you tell someone that, you give them an excuse to continue that behavior. And then the only answer is to take medication, I guess. And that's what he's doing. So yeah,
Wow.
it's sad, but on the positive side, it's incredible. My whole immediate family is doing this, including my wife now too, because she was vegetarian most of her life. My triplet daughter Emma was vegan for 5 years, and she went full carnivore, and she's over a year and a half carnivore now, just absolutely thriving. She's going to turn 18 in a couple months, and
Wow.
just next level.
How did that transformation happen? Did you try to pressure them in a way, or you did?
No, no, no. I'm shaking my head because it's a great question. I get accused of that often on my YouTube channel. I got to chill on carnivore. Like I got really excited when I first started. Like I wouldn't shut up about carnivore. However, my daughter Emma, never in a million years would I thought that she would do this, and I didn't even suggest it to her. Like she's been vegan for 5 years. Really, you're gonna only eat meat now?
Uh-huh.
She was suffering so bad. She was falling asleep at 5:30, 6 p.m. at night. Her acne was just horrible, moods, fatigued all the time, depression, anxiety. She was having so many issues. And I think she saw my transformation, losing all the weight, but my mood improving, like dad's horrible. My biggest regret in my life is what my daughters went through with my depression, just seeing their father depressed on a couch. Like I wasn't a dad to my children. I wasn't a husband to my wife. And it's the biggest regret I have. And the other reason I'm so passionate about this. But I think she saw my transformation, and then she saw me nonstop watching carnivore content on YouTube 24 hours a day, and it wore off on her. We have a video of her where she ate a hard-boiled egg. It's the first egg she ate in 5 years, and she started crying. She was like, "This tastes so good." It was like her body was screaming for the food. And just shortly after that, then she had a little bit of bacon, and then she had a ribeye. And
Uh-huh.
I couldn't believe it, like going from vegan to literally like eating a fatty ribeye that would be tough for some people. The texture of the fat, like transitioning into that, she just went full force into it. And she's absolutely thriving. Her acne cleared up, her mood improved, she's sleeping better. She's just like a completely different person. It's just I shouldn't say different person. It's like the person she always was. The person she was before was more of a impaired version of herself because she's just fatigued and has brain fog from that food she was eating before.
Wow. I mean, and what about your wife? What are some of the changes that she saw?
So my wife birthed triplets, so that was pretty extreme. So she has different circumstances than I did, but since she had the triplets 17 years ago, she's had lymphedema. I believe that's the right term. Her legs are like inflamed,
Hmm.
water
Yeah.
retention, and she'd
Yeah.
go into the doctors and like, here's some water pills, here's the special socks, here's this, here. Nothing ever worked, and like it was painful. Like for 17 years she's had this. Her other thing was her periods. Every single month she'd get her period. She'd get just incredibly painful migraines. And like every time it was like, she'd get her period and it would be 2 or 3 weeks of suffering and I got to lay down and I can't have light in my eyes and just horrible, horrible headaches and migraines. And she snored also. And with her permission, this is kind of creepy, but I had her permission. I recorded her when she started carnivore. She started carnivore with me a long time ago, and she went too fast. Like she should have eased into it. She's very bullheaded. We've been together for 30 years in 5 days from now, by the way. We've been together since age 14 exclusively. We're celebrating 30 years in 5 days, but she's very
Wow.
bullheaded. So when she started carnivore before, she's like went full blast. I'm like, you got to ease into this. You were like vegetarian and your gut biome bacteria's got to adjust, but she did it anyways and she fell off. But she started again about 220 days ago. She's been carnivore 220 days now. And when she started again, I'm like, can I record you at night sleeping? Because she was snoring and she snored. And on like day two, it was like 80%, 50%, 30%, 20%. And by day 5 or 6, the snoring just stopped. And I recorded this daily progression just to, because I thought it'd be interesting for her to see, but also for others that maybe snore or not. But I'm like, this is me witnessing my wife healing. Like your body was so inflamed that you're literally having trouble sleeping at night from the food you're eating. This is what happens when you eat the proper food kind of thing. So yeah, so sorry, long story short, she stopped snoring. Her legs got a million times better. And her biggest thing, I know it's awkward talking about it, but I don't care because it may help people. She's talked about it many times on my channel, is her periods have just completely life
Yeah,
changing. Like it was
me
horrible,
too.
absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest selling points for carnivore. I was just I'd be in agony for the first day. I'd have to cancel class, I'd have to cancel my jobs, I'd have to cancel everything. Even with taking all of the pain medication, I would still be rolled over with like a heating pad. It was just absolutely horrific. And even if I was doing good with my diet, the cravings were just unbearable. I would always go off on a binge, carbs, sugars,
Yes.
chocolates, and then it would last for at least 3 days. It just would take me so much to get back on track every month, every month. It was horrible. So the fact that I don't have to worry about it anymore, I don't have to be agonizing over the fact like, oh, I know I'm gonna get my period next week, and now I'm already anxious and I'm doing so well with my diet and exercise. I know I'm gonna mess it up. It's just it takes a lot of emotional toll on top of the physical pain.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny what you just mentioned there too, because we just did a live stream like a week ago and she was saying the same thing that I never realized. But when she used to get her periods before carnivore, the cravings were nuts for her, she said, like chocolate, like I gotta do something. It's the only little bit of relief she would have. And that
Yeah.
would perpetuate then eating more. And then yeah, it would just make the problem even worse, sort of thing. And that's gone for her as well on carnivore. No more of those crazy cravings.
Wow. Were you ever tempted by honey when you first started carnivore? You were like, well, maybe if honey, because it's technically no plant anti-nutrients and stuff.
I was not, although I could see the appeal to many. I am like I'm so happy with my results, but on the flip side, not that I'm living in fear, but just I had a here's to give you an example. I remember when I first started carnivore, I think about a month into it, I had a nightmare. And the nightmare was it was one of the girls' birthdays, and they threw a birthday cake and it hit the wall, and a little piece of frosting in slow motion was coming towards my mouth. I was like, no, like I am so terrified. I know I can't moderate anything. I feel like if I had a little bit of honey, it would lead to another thing and another thing. I've heard like Paul Saladino and others talk about incorporating things like that. Yeah, I don't know. Not for me in particular.
Yeah.
I have too much of an addictive personality.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your YouTube journey. What made you start a YouTube channel? What were you doing before? What was the topic at the beginning and how that kind of evolved?
Yeah, I've been doing YouTube. I got to get my dates right. I think it's actually been 10 years, 9 or 10 years. And my wife and girls and I moved out into the country. We live out in the middle of nowhere and we wanted to homestead. I lived in the city. We wanted to get chickens and goats and this was way before carnivore, but I always liked like farm fresh eggs. And where we lived before, we couldn't have them in the city. You weren't allowed to have chickens. So I worked from home and we could kind of live anywhere. So we like, let's look further away where we can get more land and then we can kind of do our own thing. So we moved out to the country and we built a chicken coop and we built a goat house and we're like, we're going to get our own eggs. We're going to do all this. why don't we film it and put it on YouTube? Because that's kind of how I learned about it. I learned about homesteading from other YouTubers, and I've always kind of geeked out on YouTube. So did homesteading videos for, yeah, 9 or 10 years. And then when I found carnivore, I did that one 30-day video. And it went crazy, which of course is nice. Like getting a bunch of views is great. But what was more powerful for me were the comments and people saying like they were clinically suicidally depressed too, and this saved their life. Like I was getting so many comments like that early on. I was also getting comments from people that were in their 80s doing carnivore and thriving. And that blew my mind. I'm like, at age 80, I can't imagine changing my ways. And I've lost some really close loved ones at much younger ages. And the thought that this is helping people that, they work their entire lives to retire, and then they can have a good, happy, mobile life. Like some of these stories I was hearing from these people 70s and 80s really blew my mind. So yeah, I was like, I'm gonna do another carnivore video on my 60-day update. And then the feedback was incredible, and I kept doing more and more. Like the thing that happened was the 30-day video, I was going to do that, and that's it. I'm a homesteading channel. I'm not talking about carnivore anymore, but the reaction was so incredible, I decided to do a couple more. But then what happened was I started getting people saying, Kerry, 40 days ago, I watched your 30-day video. I did what you said, and I'm no longer depressed. I had people leaving me comments like, this saved my life. And I'm like, what? This is crazy. This is just crazy. So that's what got me really motivated. Simultaneously kind of mad because it's like, how broken is this system if people can only find healing through a homesteading YouTuber individual that barely graduated high school? Like this is the only way these people can find healing. And then it just started snowballing from there, and I started doing more and more videos. And it was on day 67 with my daughter Emma, who's the former vegan that I mentioned. Emma made this shirt, and it was called Compassionate Carnivore. That was my nickname for her because her thing was, I'm gonna do this carnivore if we know where the meat is coming from and it's treated well. I don't want like feedlots or where they're mistreating the animals. And like I said, most of the meat we were getting was from my neighbor who lives right down the road. The animals, they're cows grazing in a field. It's like the most beautiful natural thing. The cows have a nice, happy life. One cow dies, we get hundreds of meals from that. So my daughter, we made this shirt, Compassionate Carnivore, and we're like, maybe we could sell this. And then I'm like, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I'm like, I don't want to make a profit off of this. The reason I'm so sick is because of profit. It's like big food, big pharma, all of these different greedy things led to where I am. And that was when we decided, like, hey, maybe we could sell these shirts and do a documentary. And that was on day 67. It's still a YouTube video I have where we're like, let's do a carnivore diet documentary. And maybe we could get someone that's doing carnivore over the course of a year for mental health or losing weight or diabetes, and we can follow them over the course of a year. And then maybe we could get some of these awesome, incredible doctors like yourself that are sharing the truth out there and elevate their voices in this documentary. And yeah, that's kind of how it happened. And then since then, I just went on a rampage. Like I think I've interviewed 200 carnivores at this point on my YouTube channel. We've interviewed 43 for the documentary. We did a 24-hour carnivore live stream where we stayed on for 24 hours, and it was just story after story after story from individuals that found healing through carnivore. And that's been kind of the goal or the purpose. It's like there's some really good documentaries out there about like the ketogenic diet or the science behind it, and those are all wonderful. But the difference that I wanted to do with this carnivore diet documentary is real people with their real individual stories, because Dante inspired me, and I feel like that's how we can inspire change is, hey, I can relate to Kerry, or I can relate to Bill or Jeff or whoever in the documentary sort of thing. So that was sort of the idea from the beginning.
So beautiful. Um, so that was day 67 that you decided to do the carnivore documentary. And what happened since then?
It's been absolutely insane. Like when I made that announcement, I'm thinking back to that Fathead documentary I mentioned earlier, which was a documentary on keto. The guy that filmed that did it with like a camcorder, but it was so powerful because he had the truth in there, and he did a really good job with the equipment he had. So I'm like, I'm just gonna do something basic. It's come full circle. Like initially, I'm like, if we're gonna do this, we get one shot. Nobody else is doing it. I want to reach millions of people. How could we reach the most people? It would be something like get on the big screen or get on Netflix. But in order to do that, you have to have a Netflix approved camera. You got to have certain requirements, and they're really expensive and costly. So from that point forward, I'm like, let's go big as we can. Let's see if we can crowdfund this. And so we did that. We did a 10-hour carnivore live stream. And all of the super chats, if people bought our Compassionate Carnivore shirts, every penny from that went to the documentary. And if people became a member on my website, and then we set up a GoFundMe, all of that 100% went to the documentary. And I've never taken a single penny or paycheck from any of this. And so we kept doing more and more. We did a 10-hour live stream, a 24-hour live stream. And every time I would interview another carnivore, I would shout out the GoFundMe. And it started building up. And then I had Dr. Chafee. I'm like, well, I got to have these doctors in the documentary. Let me see if Dr. Chafee, I've been watching him since the beginning. Plants are trying to kill you. This guy's pretty incredible. So I emailed him and I'm like, maybe in 6 months I'll talk to him. Like, there's no way. He got back to me right away. He's like, yeah, come on the channel. And then I went on his channel and like a half an hour into it, I'm like, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I want to do this documentary and I want to have you in it. Would you be willing to participate? And without even thinking, he said, 100%, I'm in. I'm like, whoa, that was pretty easy. And then after that, I went to every other doctor that I'd been watching up to that point, like Dr. Barry, Dr. Ovadia, and asked them if they'd be in the documentary. And yeah, it started just snowballing from there. And so long story, way too long, sorry. Since then, we've filmed 42 individuals and 10 of them were the doctors, including all of these in person. We filmed Dr. Barry, Dr. Chafee, Dr. Hampton, Dr. Kiltz, Dr. Georgia Eid, who's incredible. A big part of it's mental health, depression, anxiety. She's just doing some life-changing work. We filmed Dr. Ovadia, Dr. Baker. We went to Boston College and filmed Professor Thomas Seyfried. We have a whole section on cancer as a metabolic disease. And yeah, and we just got back from the UK. We filmed 3 individuals there. 2 weeks before that, we were in Australia. We filmed Limitless Lindy, who was 700 pounds. She lost 500 pounds on carnivore diet. Yeah, so we're almost done. Like, we're on the home stretch in terms of filming. We filmed 42 interviews. We have about 3 or 4 left to film. And we're hoping to release the documentary next year. It still takes a lot of work to compile, edit, sound grade, all of that stuff, market it. So
How, if somebody is thinking of joining and creating their own documentaries? I also was in the Truckers, Take an Eggs for Truckers, the new documentary by Werewolf, the carnivore werewolf.
Werewolf, yeah.
His Instagram,
I
right?
met him in Austin, yeah.
Yeah, great documentary as well. People should check out his YouTube channel and see that. And so, if you feel comfortable sharing, no pressure. This is me just being curious, as I was telling you how curious I am about everything. How much, what is the ballpark figure as in terms of budgeting that somebody would want to aim for if they want to do a professional level documentary?
It's a great question. What I'm learning is a lot of the decent documentaries that you see on a big streaming service, they often cost $1 million, $2 million.
Wow.
There's so much that goes into it. And we've so far through our own, without any like company, or the problem with a lot of those Netflix ones you see, they're often biased because they're sponsored by Beyond Meat, or and then they have an agenda that they have to stick to, and then they're not telling the truth anymore. And I don't like that. Ours is completely crowdfunded, so it's a bunch of individual donations, but we've raised $250,000 so far, which is incredible. It's a huge, huge blessing. It's amazing, but honestly, we need a lot more to finish it because that is the expensive part,
The
is
editing.
editing, sound grade, making it accessible, handicap accessible, and getting it out to all the film festivals. And that's usually what documentaries do, is they'll go to the film festivals and then the studios will see them at the film festivals and then you'll get picked up from there. And then you
Right.
have the marketing, and the marketing can cost more than all of that depending
Yeah.
on what. So, but I'm really proud of what we have so far. And the crazy thing is, we were talking about this a little bit offline, but we're also doing a series. There's so many stories. We filmed 42 people. We can't have all 42 interviews in the documentary to be 8 hours long. So there's gonna be little snippets here and there in the middle from some of the individuals, but then they're going to appear in the series afterwards. And in the series, we'll have a whole episode on depression. We'll have a whole episode on fertility, whole episode on heart disease with the different specialist doctors and individuals. But so if you have a loved one that's suffering from heart disease, you could just share that particular episode, for example.
Wow. That's fantastic. Yeah, definitely it's going to cost a lot more. So I'll make sure I post the GoFundMe link in the description box below for anybody who is willing to chip in.
Yeah, I appreciate that. If people visit donate.healinghumanity.movie, you can donate there, and you can also, there's a contact form if you're interested in sharing your story, because we're going to do this forever. The documentary we're not taking any more stories for, but the subsequent series afterwards. So you could submit your story there. And also, like if people buy our Healing Humanity shirts or Compassionate Carnivore shirts, all of those, every penny from all that goes to support the documentary. So.
Fantastic. Healing Humanity is the name of the documentary.
Yeah, Healing Humanity, and the tagline is the power of a proper human diet, which we were kind of partnering with Dr. Ken Berry on that because that's sort of his thing, the proper human diet. So we were debating and like putting carnivore in the title or not, and then you kind of scare people away. So
Mm.
that's what the name we went with.
Yeah, that's probably a smarter marketing tactic than putting carnivore because people will just write you off immediately. They won't
Yeah,
even give you the time of day, you know. It's like, oh, that's just quack science or whatever.
exactly. Yeah.
Who is the most famous or a most influential person you would say that you have on, or the top, so that we don't pit people against one another? Like the top biggest, most influential people with the biggest followings, the biggest impact that hopefully once the documentary goes live, then at least there's that audience that's going to watch it.
Yeah, there's some big names like that are in the documentary and that are supporting it. Dr. Ken Berry's one of the biggest, I guess, doctor experts that's in there. I think he has over 3 million subscribers on YouTube.
Dr.
But
Barry.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's about to hit 4 million. I think it's like 3.6 million on YouTube, which is
wow.
phenomenal. Like I grew up in Lebanon. The whole population of Lebanon was 4 million before the Syrian crisis. Now we have 2 million refugees on top, but still like 4 million, that's a whole country.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other big one is, so we were filming in Austin. We filmed 14 people in Austin, and I got an email, and the email said, I've been watching your YouTube channel for a while. I really like what you're doing. You should come on my podcast. And it was signed Tammy Peterson, Jordan Peterson's wife. And I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. Like Jordan and Tammy Peterson are watching my YouTube channel. And it
Wow.
turns out they were. And so Tammy had me on her podcast, and I asked her if she'd share her story in our documentary because she had stage 4 terminal cancer,
Yeah.
and she was doing
Liver
carnivore.
cancer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she's been doing carnivore for years. So she said yes. And then, long story short, we have a little teaser trailer. It's a little 3-minute video of our documentary. And she's like, oh, by the way, Jordan Peterson, she didn't say the last name, but she said Jordan tweeted out your trailer. So um, Jordan is excited about our trailer, and he said, this is a necessary film. And then he also said, and look at the 83-year-old rancher, because in the teaser trailer, we have Maggie, who we filmed. She's 83-year-old. She's been
Yeah,
eating carnivore for 65
I
years.
know.
She's
We
like
text
flexing.
all the time. I have her number because I was trying to get her. I should go back. I haven't chatted with her in a while. After she showed up on Shafi's channel, I was like, I want to have you on. And she was like, we'll come over to the farm and we'll do it. I was like, oh gosh.
That's the caveat.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
a caveat. Maybe we'll do it. Yeah.
the farm is awesome. And so Adam and I went to the farm for about 5 days to film her, and it was incredible. And she put us to work. We built like a
Right.
huge, we built a huge fencer, but it was great footage for the documentary. And like, I can't wait. So Dr. Jordan Peterson was really excited about Maggie. Everyone's excited about Maggie. She's like flexing in the video
Hmm.
that we did, but she's the next level. Her
Yeah.
energy is that of a teenager. We followed her around for a week, so I can't wait to share her energy and her spirit and her words with the world because she was absolutely incredible. Like she's the only person out of 42 people we filmed, nothing wrong with her, no sickness, no disease, no mental health, no depression, no anxiety. Her hair is fully blonde at 83 years old, and people are asking her like, "What skincare products do you use?" And she started laughing. She's like, "I've never used anything, like maybe a little tallow. I've never used any skincare products, no hair care products, just straight up proper human diet her whole life, and she's absolutely thriving."
Wow. I'm so excited. I cannot wait for the documentary to come out. Um, is there anything else you would like to add? Something that's important that we may have missed?
Just one last thing is I get so many people on the YouTube channel that want to do this, but they need more help. They
Mhm.
need more community. And I get it because when you're starting carnivore, especially around the holidays or wherever, you're the odd person out, right? Everyone else is, you're the crazy one. And if you're trying to overcome an addiction to cocaine or alcohol, everyone tries to help you. If you're trying to overcome an addiction to food, you're the crazy one and no one helps you, and they try to give you cupcakes and stuff. So long story short, we started a membership site. It's called healinghumanity.life. And it's just a big community where we can help people. We have doctors, experts. I'd love to invite you on if you'd like to come on as one of our experts. Um,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah, every Thursday we do a Healing Humanity Inspire Together where we have a Healing Humanity hero come on, and we have courses and all sorts of stuff. And the proceeds from that are going to go to support the series that we do ongoing. So if people are interested in that, it's healinghumanity.life if they need a little bit more community. I always tell people too, if you don't need that, don't do it. Like I was able, there's so many good free YouTube videos out there too you can use as well.
Fantastic. I will also make sure I post all of those links so that it's easy for people to click on them and join. And thank you so much, Kerry. Thank you for your courage and determination first to transform your life, because without that, none of this would have been possible. Thank you for sharing all of, I mean, it takes a lot out of us to share this message. You know, there's not a lot of profit in terms of, you know, as a career choice. We're not really taking the easy road here by sharing all the information, all the science, all the stories about the carnivore diet. So I have so much gratitude for people such as yourself. So, and I'm sure a lot of people that are watching feel the same way. So, thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you for coming on this podcast and sharing it with my audience. I will make sure I post all of your links so people can follow you easily and stay up to date. And hopefully, once the documentary goes live, we'll make sure we remind everybody to go watch it. And yeah, I think that wraps it up. Thank you, everybody. Is there anything else you would like to say, Kerry?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity. I'm glad we got to connect, and I really appreciate what you're doing too, and look forward to talking to you more, working with you more in the future. So thank you so much.
Totally. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us till the end. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure you share it with a friend or a family member that you know might benefit from it. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell icon as well so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.